The following is brought to you in part by a grant from the Foundation for White Well-Being.
Look into this dark, unforgiving glass eye, the mesh of the microphone. Tell it your deepest thoughts, hopes, fears, and desires. We will take these emotions, turn them, and feed them back to you, for we have goals that your feelings will assist. This is how we rule. From the shadows, playing your emotions like puppet strings, we lead you to destinations that we have prepared, and you willingly oblige, thinking these decisions to be your own. When you do as we wish, we reward you, and when you go against us, we punish you. In a million subtle ways, we influence your supposedly free choice. By this method, we rule over a population convinced that they are the masters of their own destiny. Welcome to the Empire of Lies.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Good evening to all of you lovelies. I see we've got about 25 people with us already at the very beginning. I would like to remind everyone that Chris and I do not like to work for free, and during the Empire of Lies streams, we don't stop for paid chats during the stream because it's only an hour long, but we will get to those at the very end of the stream. You can contribute via Cash App, PayPal, Entropy, Hyperchats on Odyssey, Rants on Rumble, and if you are a subscriber of mine over on Subscribestar, you can send tips over there, which are like paid chats or super chats. We will get to those towards the end, but we're doing something a little different tonight, which we will get into. So we'll start looking at chat and paid chats here in the next 30 or 40 minutes. You might notice that tonight, the name of the stream is the Gulag Cafe. That's a name that I'm very proud of. I came up with it earlier. We're going to be discussing Gamergate. There's no script for this week. Now, we've been talking for a while now about having a sort of loose filler slot for Empire of Lies where we don't have a script, or we just something comes up during the week, or we just need a break and don't feel like it. So, but we still want to keep our time slot active and talk to you guys. So I came up with the Gulag Cafe because Lord knows we're probably all going to end up there anyway one day, right? Especially if the Starzy over in the UK has anything to say about it. Welcome to the Gulag Cafe, live from the Gulag Cafe, perhaps.
Indeed.
Welcome
to the Gulag Cafe, live. Would you like your rat saute or fricassee? We have dirty water or potato vodka. It's a little bit, illegal. And, if you're dying for a cigarette, we can probably scrape something up from the corners of the room, and get you some old parchment paper, and you can smoke away to your heart's content as long as the smoking police don't get ya. Yeah, it's all.
Yeah, we've only got 56 minutes, and we have to go back to breaking rocks outside with the other prisoners. So
That's right.
So anyway, I have had a really frustrating week. As many people in America will know, it is hot as hell. It's like 90 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. It's so humid here, I can almost drink the air. The washing machine broke at my mother's house, and she's having air conditioner problems with one of her AC units. And over here, the ACs are having to run so hard, the main one is frozen, and we're having to dethaw it. It is miserably muggy and hot. I've had a frustrating week for a couple of other reasons I don't want to go into. Chris has a big vacation coming up. He's traveling to Malta. And why don't you tell them the main reason why you didn't want to do a script this week?
Well, I tried. Okay, I try. So I have a script in the pipe, which is an analysis of Lenin's The State and Revolution. Sort of, with sort of, basically in regard to race, I have discovered that well, I mean, everyone's kind of like knowing this for a while, right? Like race communism, people like talk about it, right? But it really, really is. If you go back to like the foundational documents of communism, Lenin's The State and Revolution, and you just swap out race for class, it all makes complete sense. However, for some weird reason, my brain refused to cooperate in reading Lenin. I was like, it's not a long book; it's only like 30 pages. I'm like, right, come on, brain, we're gonna read some Lenin, and we're gonna like bang out a script. And my brain was like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm like, come on, brain. My brain's like, no, no more communism. I can't. So I I had to bow. I think my brain needs a break from
And
all
I
the
needed a
communist
break
theory.
too. Like it's been a long week, and I'm hot and miserable. Like I just when I get really hot, I can't really think, and I'm miserable, and I can't really perform to my normal optimization. And it's just been a frustrating, miserably hot, sweltering week, and I haven't been sleeping well because of that. Like it's been rough, even with the fan directly on me. It's been hard here. So anyway, tonight we thought what we would do is just like I said earlier, we're just going to chew the fat, talk about Gamergate stuff, and most importantly, we're going to do our first Empire of Lies Q&A for as long as we can do it on the stream. So in the next 20 or 30 minutes, everybody listening, prepare yourselves to ask us questions, and we're going to have direct back and forth with the chat. We would appreciate paid chats, but it doesn't have to be. We're going to look at Rumble, Odyssey, and YouTube, and we're going to see what you guys are saying at us, either at Empire of Lies, at EOL, at Is the Eunuch. We'll see it in the chat. And if you want a question specifically for Chris, and just Chris, you could even at Newsfist, he'll see it. We have one of our best moderators and my good friend Ardent Party in the chat. He's moderating tonight. Thank you, brother. Glad you're here. And prepare that. We're going to talk for the next little while about Gamergate, and then we will get to your guys' questions. And as always, we would appreciate any dollars you share with us because this is what we do for a living. So,
yes, prepare yourselves, children of the revolution. Proletarians are rising. Prepare yourself to ask the questions. Make sure that you have a proper questions license. If not, the question police will be up here with some kind of truncheon. Of course, all questions will be screened and censored before being answered, just like any good communist would want. I'm in the UK, don't you know? That's how things are here now. It's fine.
I'm proud of myself for Starzy. I like calling it Starmer's Stasi, the Starzy.
It's the Stasi, not the Starzy.
Starmer's Stasi. Get it? Starzy?
The Starzy.
Yeah.
The
Now,
Stasi
the best wordle that I've heard for Starmer yet, credit goes to Morgoth. He says that in the future, what Starmer's doing is going to be known as Cruel Britannia, and that's pretty good.
Mate,
that's pretty good.
That is pretty good. That is pretty good, mate.
Morgoth is brilliant. I love Morgoth. He's one of my favorite thinkers and speakers and writers in this entire sphere. I love Morgoth's reviews. He's fantastic. I wish I could hang out with him. I wish I could hang out with a lot of the UK bros, but it's just not in the cards. But anyway,
will always be the llama or llama to me. The llama hama.
The Stormzy. Yeah, there you go, Arden.
Yeah, the Stormzy. Not as opposed from Stormzy.
That, right. There's a much different S.
UK.
That is more different.
Maybe if we could like clone Starmer and Stormzy and like compress them together, and you'd have like Stormzy. Oh. He'd like come out on stage in like a bullet, stab vest. Like half black and half white. He'd be like the perfect embodiment of diversity, and like half of his like speech would be like, "Yeah, fam, like what in roadmen, mandem in." I can't really.
Okay, stop. We got to stop this. This is horrible. What we wanted to talk about tonight is Gamergate, the aftermath. So, Chris, why don't you go ahead and get us started and preface it, and we'll have some back and forth and talk about some stuff.
Okay, so when I am not sort of frying my neurons, sort of contemplating communist theory, I watch a lot of gaming YouTube because it lets my brain relax, number one, but also because I have been sort of pondering for quite a while how long it's going to take before the sort of the capitalism runs into the communism. And there is no greater sort of example of this bullshit than what has been happening to video gaming. Now, unlike other sort of creative endeavors that have been essentially consumed by the communist octopus known as the United Nations, EU, and associated globe organizations, like science fiction would be a really, really good example. Science fiction has completely succumbed. Gaming, being filled with many white, misogynist, racist young men.
And let us not forget the masculine superpower of autism, right, in the gaming communities.
Gaming has proved stubbornly resistant.
Oh, yes.
And and look, this is always sort of the problem, basically, right? Like at some point, the UN sort of figured out that, in their opinion, gaming is better. Propaganda in terms of like interactive propaganda, right, is better than red propaganda. I bet if Aiden was here, she'd probably say, "Oh yeah, there's a paper on that." I'm sure there is a paper on that. At some point, they're like, you know what would be a great way to brainwash people? Let's make like ideological video games. But they are still hamstrung by the fact that they can't really force people to play them yet. In the future Gulag, we will all have to play Dustborn over and over and over. So woke gaming, right, which basically started in Gamergate, right? Like 10 years ago, people started seeing what the hell was going on. And the reason why Gamergate became like a really, really big thing, like, Carl Benjamin, Sargon was all up in its business, was that they discovered that most of this stuff was being pushed by the United Nations, right? All the gaming companies, of course, are like, yeah, what are you talking? Like, oh, it doesn't exist. And then they're like, oh, well, it does exist and it's a good thing. Yeah. And then they're like, oh, this is being pushed by the UN. Now, this is clearly going much, much further now. They're like, in addition to the female representation, now need the black representation. And now they're sort of, honing in on the pinnacle of diversity where there's like literally no white people at all and everyone's gay and trans and stuff. But you can't make people play video games, right?
You can't make people play garbage games that aren't fun and are stupid. Like,
so there's been a few developments in the gaming industry recently that sort of really highlight this. Okay, so the first thing is the massive success of a game called Black Myth Wukong, which I have not yet had the pleasure of playing because I'm too goddamn fucking busy. Which is a Chinese game that I can't. It has no diversity. Oh my god! I mean, it's all Asians. But that's not diversity because there's no blacks, right? Basically, right? So
there's no homosexual Jews and there's black women of color and all that shit.
There are no gays.
I'm sorry, trans women of color. Forgive me.
There are no gays. There are no fat womans. I have heard that there are actually attractive women in this game. Oh, the male gays. Oh,
how terrible.
Terrible.
How novel, I mean.
So Black Myth Wukong has basically solved like hotcakes because everyone is like sick of it, despite the sort of propaganda gaslighting that all the lefties have been doing by saying like, oh no, it's not happening, and if it is happening, it's a good thing, and why do you care anyway? You must be racist. This is just starting to run out of steam, and we have seen this with the launch of a few titles which look like they are about to bomb. Quite a few of them. So the first one was Concord, which is a sort of hero shooter that's basically like Overwatch. Have you ever played Overwatch, right?
Yeah.
Now, Sony spent 8 years on this pile of hot garbage. And what I have noticed is that they push out all the writers and designers first, okay?
Yeah.
So you often find these games, they have very good environments still because they're clearly keeping all the environmental teams, like the people who actually build stuff, right? And it's the writers who went first. This is why all the games suffered this massive plunge in writing quality, right? And then the company's like, well, you don't really need a story for a game. Who needs a story, right? And then, gradually it just gets worse and worse and worse. So Concord has launched to a complete and utter failure. Then there was the launch of Dustborn, which was look, if you want like a funny time, look that up on YouTube. It's basically Antifa, the woke video game, a stirring story about a bus full of they-thems crossing the fascist United States, and instead of combat, you can use words to defeat your enemies. You can like trigger them and cancel them, and it's just the most fucking. But I mean, this is
the article that we covered on that Monday with Politicrat. It said that the game is just a mess. It's not fun to play. It's not well polished. The game elements are clunky, badly implemented, and the ending is a wet fart that just doesn't make any sense. Like it's a bad game, even if you take all the anti-white shit out of it. Like it's just a bad game.
Well, I mean, the thing is, right? I feel like Dustborn might actually be peak woke because for the first time I was like, I might actually just play this to laugh at it. But apparently it's technically like terrible. But
Yeah.
Dustborn was basically financed with government money, right? It was
Yep.
paid for by the EU and probably the UN. They like to sort of disguise their sources of funding.
Yep.
This is
we've
why
got Jason Kuna in the chat. He's covered this before too. How there is a ton of not just corporate but taxpayer money that goes into this white erasure content. Like they push this crap, they fund this crap. Like they give grants for it, and it's not just ESG stuff from big investors pushing this. It's government agencies put money into this too. I heard Jason cover this more than once on his channel.
Yeah, well, the thing about government, right, is that they can do stuff that is not profitable because it's good for society. And they have clearly decided, right, that everyone has to be a communist because it's good for society, which again is like a classic communist trope. It goes all the way back to the Russian Revolution. We have to have the revolution. It's good for society. Things like this, right? Then you also have Ubisoft, right? Now, Ubisoft used to be a respectable publisher. They did the Assassin's Creed games. They did like Watch Dogs, Far Cry, many good games back in the day, but they have fallen very, very far. And it's one of the things about like, the Cultural Revolution is that when you're in the midst of it, it's often hard to see it happening, right? Because, the changes take place incrementally. So then when you look backwards and you're like, holy shit. So for example, if you go back and play Watch Dogs, the first Watch Dogs, or Far Cry 3, which are like, 2014, I think thereabouts. Watch Dogs is an amazing game, right? You are Aiden Pierce. You're like a white dude who like just, a hacker. You just go around like shooting people in the face. And it's so awesome, right? It's like set in Chicago. The mechanics are like great.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a cool game.
I'm horrified to say this.
It's like Deus Ex, GTA, Siphon Filter. Like it's like a good mashup of themes and actions and story. It's a really cool game. The first Watch Dogs.
You will be shocked by this, yes. But in Watch Dogs, I can't even bring myself to say this. A woman tells the main character to do something, and he lies to her, and he just does it anyway. I can't believe it. Whereas, right?
Are you telling me that the main character is a likable heterosexual white man?
Well, obviously, he doesn't do everything that the women around him tell him, so he can't be likable. Yeah, it's such a dramatic change, right? So if you look at the Assassin's Creed games, is a really, really good example of this. Okay, although even there's always sort of anti-white, anti-Christian messaging in all of them. Even the Viking one, I forget what it was called, the huge one. It was like literally. Oh God!
Oh dang, I can't remember. But no, we talked about this on Discordant Dragons. Remember?
Yeah, they had this, like you're basically going around killing all the Christians and stuff like that. And it's only okay to be white because you're killing Christians. But then you get sort of like the latest one that came out. No, not the latest one. The one before that. Basically, you're in Egypt, I think, and you're just basically like a cuck. This woman just tells you what to do, and you just like. And this is also true of the Islamic one they did set in Baghdad.
Yeah.
You're this incredibly powerful assassin, but the woman tells you what to do. Starfield was also like this, a very, very unenjoyable game where basically for like the first, 2 hours, you're stuck with this woke scold fucking female devoid of personality, charisma, sexual attractiveness, or anything like that. Who just follows you around. It's like, and you can't even shoot her in the face. Right? So they're also at the same time restricting player agency. And this is a deliberate tactic because they don't want you to play sort of, games like Fallout 3 or 4, where you could choose to be evil if you want to. No, that might send the wrong message. We all know that the reason why society is so terrible is because of the messages that there's. It's basically like the who are the people who are always banging on about metal music? The Moral Majority, Tipper Gore and all of them.
Yeah, it was
basically
the Pearl Clutchers. Yeah, the old busybody. prudes of like the silent generation and the boomers that
Yeah.
thought, you know, they thought that every video game was like Doom 2016 and just full of satanic stuff and violence and gore and stuff, and they just,
Yeah.
you know.
And they've taken over with the idea that because you have to think about something before you do it, which is not always true, by the way. I just like to make this clear, right? Sometimes people act without thinking, but the rationale is that if you don't allow people to have bad thoughts, they won't do bad things. Now, this is retarded. This is so retarded on its face. I can't believe that anyone gets away with this. And not only that, it deprives people of any kind of agency, right? How is anyone supposed to learn self-control if they are never put in a situation where they think, oh, I could do that thing. Well, maybe I shouldn't. So, the idea, like, if you play Watch Dogs or whatever, you might suddenly rock up in the middle of Chicago and hack a bunch of traffic lights and then, whip out a grenade launcher and start blowing up taxis or, Grand Theft Auto, right? So this retarded sort of worldview has seeped into everything. And just talk about Assassin's Creed. The next Assassin's Creed that's going to come out, Assassin's Creed: The Shadow, it's got a black samurai, right? Like this was a huge sort of like scandal in the gaming industry, right? And the reason I just want to talk about this is that this was supported by a whole bunch of UN glow operae, right? So the way it is now clear after looking at Japan exactly what has happened to the West. So what they were trying to do in Japan was lay the groundwork to say that there had always been black people in Japan, right? And the way they were going to do this was with this character Yasuke, who was supposed to be the black samurai.
But that's not possible because samurai is a caste of people. It's a noble caste. And an outsider, a foreigner, African or otherwise, couldn't have that caste. It's not possible.
Oh, you just got to broaden your mind. Yes, you got to stop being racist, right? So this is a clear subversion attempt on the Japanese people. Okay, so first they say blacks have always been here, right? Then they say, oh, the reason why you don't know about it in history is because it's been hidden, right, by the whites or the Japanese, or I'm absolutely certain the communists used exactly this same tactic back in Russia, right? They'd be like, oh, they've always been proletarians,
the white guilt, white erasure stuff, like we've covered before. It's a Marxist racial tactic that can be used against any race or ethnic group when it's applied in the same way.
Yes.
Like in Japan and Korea, we're seeing Japanese and Korean Asian erasure. We're seeing them being instilled with the same types of tricks that are the same wedges being driven in between their people has been done to us for the last 80 or 90 years. Like it's messed up.
Now the way they did this.
Let's get back on topic with Gamergate though. So
wait, just let me finish this.
Go ahead.
This is important.
Okay.
So the way they did this, right, was they got an academic to write a bunch of like fake stuff about this character, and then they laundered that into Wikipedia. Then they went to Ubisoft and they said, because representation, you need to have a black samurai. And now no one wants to play their shitty ass game because everyone wanted to play as Japanese people in Japan, because Japan is very, very popular in the West. So
because this whole be racist and shit.
Yeah. And the idea presumably being basically, well, black people have always been in Japan, therefore you need to import infinity migrants. That's basically the way the argument is being constructed. Sorry. So go on. You want to talk about Gamergate?
What I wanted to talk about was why Gamergate is a big deal to so many people. And I like to look at things from a racial lens, from a civilizational lens. And I think that many, many people that play games, mostly, middle-aged to younger white guys, right? They grew up 70s, 80s, and 90s. Some of them born even after that. What do they see? They look at commercials and comic books and magazines, and they listen to preachers and teachers at school and professors and politicians. Their culture isn't for them. There's nowhere to be positively, aggressively, competently masculine and be rewarded for it. There's no way to celebrate and openly have pride and love for your own racial group, your own ethnic group as a white man without being punished for it. So we have, men 50 and younger that have grown up a lot of times only seeing that bleak oblivion ahead of them of no one wants me, I don't have a place, I can't be a hero, I can't be a provider, I have no people to champion for. What the fuck am I going to do with my life? Everything sucks. So many men turn to gaming. They turn to tabletop gaming, video gaming, role-playing games, D&D, World of Darkness, that kind of stuff. And video gaming is huge. And you had all of these disaffected young men, millions of them, actively engaged in gaming, games journalism, gaming streams, gaming websites. And that's why Gamergate hit hard on the right, on the white right, if you want to call it that. Men noticed, hey, it really is what we've been suspecting, that these evil, rotten liars, these anti-white charlatans and evil devils that are in control of companies and governments and stuff, they are on purpose poisoning the one thing that we have, the one way that we have to feel like a man, the one way we have to feel like a damn hero, even though it's make-believe. They're poisoning that and taking that from us. And when you go and when you go to someone who's lost everything and just wants to be left alone, and you take away that one thing they have, you create zealots that are willing to die to get back at you. And I think that zealous fervor is what has created, in my opinion, the growing dissidence in the last 10 years of millions of angry young white guys. I think that is a major element to the growing malcontents of the white right, and why you have so many young guys going to poll on 4chan and thinking that naming the Jew and wearing a swastika is the way to fix everything, because that's the only place they find community among disaffected gamers. Or worse, you have them actually going out and joining gangs of people that do horrible things because they don't have an outlet anymore, and they're angry the one thing they had has been poisoned and taken from them. So what do you think about that? And what does the chat think about that? Do you think I'm right about that? Because that's how it feels to me.
What do you guys think? Yeah, I mean, look, there has been a concerted attempt to poison any myths that sort of, young men in the West can cling to, right? It has been total. Look at what has happened to companies like Disney, companies like Games Workshop, Dungeons and Dragons, all of these things that would allow Western men to express masculinity, even in a sort of, or allow them to plan. I think so. For example, right? You know what? A game I'd really like to play. You know what? I would love to play a game, right, where you get to take down Antifa, right? So like Assassin's Creed, right? But you get to like mess up Antifa, right? You go around the city, you identify their agents, you mess them up, you get intel, you like work your way up to the UN or whatever. I mean, Deus Ex, the original Deus Ex was very, very much like that. You start out as a cop in some city, you stumble across a thing and you find out that there's this huge conspiracy. Now,
J.C. Denton was a wonderful vehicle for young men at the time, or even, older adult men like in their 20s and early 30s that had already started realizing, hey, wait a minute, this game is rigged, and what we learned in school and what we see on TV is just narrative. It's just spin. None of this is real. None of this culture is real. And that's why I think you had, as paused and weird as the Wachowskis are, The Matrix had a lot of that. And a lot of fiction at the time in the 80s and 90s evolved around everything we experienced being fake and contrived. Because I think a lot of smart people were already starting to notice that and put things together. And so if you know the story of the original Deus Ex game, they were trying to tell you the same stuff that we try to tell you on Empire of Lies, if you didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird that in the 90s, the whole conspiracy thing was very big, right? Because people were sort of noticing that they were basically correctly noticing the birth of the world government. And but the same sort of things applied. They're like, oh no, it doesn't exist, or oh hey, that's like funny, take your meds. But conversely, as the power of the world government grew, it became harder and harder to cover up its existence. So the tactics sort of switched from saying like, oh, misdirecting it to things like, oh, the Illuminati or stuff like that, to just basically calling everybody crazy, and it's, yeah, it's very, very retarded. But the thing is, like, to go back to my original point, I think the rubber is starting to meet the road in terms of money. So what's going to happen to Ubisoft, for example, is very, very interesting. So they just released Star Wars Outlaws. Star Wars, of course, was another sort of like big mythos for young Western men. Where they could, feel themselves to be the hero, battle sort of dark forces and stuff like that. And it has now become completely emasculated and paused. And the latest game that is being released is not only technically garbage, but of course it has a female protagonist who is like a massive girl boss. She can just go up to a stormtrooper and smack him in the back of the head with a fist. And it's but now that everyone has clearly noticed these tropes, right? It has become very, very boring and very uncool, and they're sort of backed into a corner. They can't do anything new and original, because to do something cool, new, and original would cater to the people whose minds they are trying to destroy. This is essentially menticide, or like, cultural warfare, basically, right? The only things that are now cool are reactionary things, and they're not allowed. So is Ubisoft going to pick up a ton of UN money, or is BlackRock going to give them another ESG loan so that they can keep pumping out this tepid bullshit? But if no one plays it, it looks really bad, right? They can release all of the $200 million games they want. Disney can make all of the $200 million, $300 million series like the Acolyte. Doctor Who can release their thing, but if nobody is watching them, and what is worse is that a bunch of their ideological enemies are making a ton of money by commenting on this, right? So this woke sort of thing has enabled the rise of like some really good YouTube channels, like Disparu, for example. Disparu is my favorite. I just love that guy. He's so snarky. And so you are having these people being, actually monetizing and becoming more popular by ragging on the horrible thing than the thing itself.
I'm sure everybody knows Jeremy Hamblin, the guy that does the quartering. Yeah. I knew him back when he was a nobody, and it's amazing how much he's grown. But the thing he said many, many years ago, before he blew up and got really big, is he said, you know what I'm going to do with all these woke idiots? I'm going to turn them into farm animals. I'm going to hook them up to a plow, and I'm going to plow revenue. And by God, has he done that. He's made like at least $2 or $3 million in the last few years doing that. Like,
monetize your haters, as
like,
they say. It has essentially enabled like the rise of an entire sort of reactionary counter industry, and it's now gotten to the point. Actually, I made a tweet about this the other day that was relatively successful. I'm not buying any more woke games. I'm just not, right. You can call me any name you want under the sun. You can call me a racist or this or that. It's fine. I'm not buying them, right? I have tons of old games that I can replay or play. Some of them are like great. I can stay disinterested in this crap longer than you can stay solvent. And this is the real question, right? Because it's just going to look bad, so it looks like Star Wars Outlaws is going to be a massive flop. If the next Assassin's Creed is also a massive flop, that will be two sort of, $200 or $300 million games that Ubisoft has put out flop in 1 year, and the damage to their reputation is going to be massive. And then what are they going to do?
Oh, go ahead. I wanted to talk. Can I have a second?
Please.
One of the things that we've talked about a lot, and Jason's here, and I know you've talked about it. Ardent Party's here. I've heard you talk about it. One of the important things that you need to get people to realize in your life, if they're having trouble making the step towards, acknowledging and realizing how bad things are, companies do not have profit and market share as their primary goal anymore. So what is their goal? What is it they want? Why are multi-million and multi-billion dollar companies willing to operate at a loss to push the ideas? Why? Why are they anti-white? Why are they anti-Western? Why are they anti-male or anti-Christian? Why are they pushing all of this anti-whiteism and stuff if it's costing them billions of dollars? And if they're able to stay fungible, where's that money coming from? Who's paying it? Is it BlackRock and Vanguard? Is it the deep state? Is it Israel? Is it intelligence agencies like Mossad and CIA? Where's the money coming from? Is somebody in the government shunting tax money to them from somewhere? follow the money. And even if you can't follow the money, if people are having trouble accepting the fact that like game companies or comic book companies, things like that, are more ideologically driven than they are profit driven, you can show them articles, choices, interviews, documentaries about how people that do not agree with white erasure and anti-whiteism as an ideology are fired or moved in departments or knocked down the ladder of choices. And the people they promote for project lead, CEO, operational directors, these people are galvanized ideologically anti-white. And they are the ones that are being given power and money in these companies, even though those choices financially run them into the ground. So why do they keep doing it? And this isn't something new now. Like, you can ask Jason, he's been on this for decades. They've been doing this for decades. Like, this started back in the 90s, at least, if not earlier than that, with a lot of these companies. That's when the cancer started getting in, taking HR seats and crap like that. Like, this has been going on for a while, and it's starting to reach critical mass, and people notice, and the products are terrible, because when you get rid of all of the white people that care about the product, and you only have these ideological anti-whites in there, it all goes to crap. And the product is crap, and the marketing is crap, and the businesses ran terribly. So something clearly is more important to the people that run and care about these companies than money, than profit. It's ideology. But why do they want that ideology pushed? Well, that's $1 million question, isn't it? So I think that's a good way to, like, sort of, that's a good first stepping stone to getting people in your personal life, or if you're raising kids, or if you have, maybe a college kid that's confused about things because of shit she heard her professor say, that kind of thing. That's a pretty good stepping stone, because most people under 50 have a pretty solid history with video games. Most of us do. It's an easy way to start the ball rolling with rejecting the narrative, is talking about video games. So we have been talking about video games for about 40 minutes now.
If I may, I just so look, the reason why is that they have convinced a whole bunch of people that they can have a better world if they basically brainwash everyone for their own good. Fundamentally, that's what it breaks down to, number one. Number two, before we go to chat, I would just like to shout out some like really good games that, like, if
that's what I was going to say, is before we move on, I'd like to share some good games too. You can go.
Oh, okay. Well, do you want to go first then?
Doesn't matter. We could take turns. We could do one, then you do one.
So look, I mainly play on console. Yes, I know, but my couch is much comfier, so suck it. So on
I'm
Xbox,
PC Master Race, so I'll be recommending PC games, of course, because I'm better than Chris.
Everything on Xbox now sucks, right? But if you go back, there are still some great games that I have discovered. I would highly recommend Rage, the first Rage, which was done by id Software, the people who did Doom and Quake. John Carmack did that. It's probably Rage 2 is terrible, but Rage 1 is great. Thief is really good. I'm playing that now. Watch Dogs 1, really, really good. I hear Far Cry 3 is really good. I haven't got around to playing that. Far Cry 4 is pretty decent. You get to basically run around Nepal chasing a bunch of drug dealers. It's really, really awesome. Yiz, you got some recommendations?
For console, yeah, actually I do. There's a Clive Barker game for Xbox or Xbox One. I forget. I think it's Xbox One, called Jericho.
Yeah.
Jericho is an absolutely awesome first-person shooter, adventure, exploring, occult magic mystery game. It has wonderful writing, wonderful voice acting, and it's just an awesome, kick-ass, weird, fun game. So that is one of my top recommendations. If you like really good console video games, is Clive Barker's Jericho. You played that, Chris?
I have, actually, not for a long. That is a blast. Actually, what I really should do is go back through all my my old Xbox discs. I still got a bunch of them. I'm not even sure if my Xbox has a bloody disc player anymore. And might I add as well, there have been a bunch of games that have just been completely deleted from memory. So, for example, there was an Xbox game called Syndicate that was based on the
I love Syndicate. I've got Syndicate and Syndicate Wars and Syndicate 2 in a folder. Yeah, I still play them sometimes.
Yeah. Well, there was an Xbox version of it that was like a first-person shooter.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. It doesn't exist
I've not
anymore.
played the FPS one. I've not played that one.
It's been just erased, basically. If you owned it, well, tough titty. I don't know I presume there was something in it that was very offensive. I can't remember. I just remember it being very, very cool and cyberpunk and, and stuff like that. We got a few recommendations as well in the chat.
Well, go ahead and read those for us.
Bully. Yeah, I haven't played Bully, but I heard it's really, really good. Infamous on PS. Yeah, Infamous was pretty good. I like that as well. Syndicate, obviously. Star Wars Battlefront 2. Knights of the Old Republic.
Knights of the Old
XCOM
Republic 2. The first one is it's okay. Knights of the Republic 2 is Knights of the Old Republic 2, even though it wasn't finished and rushed to market, is still one of the best console games ever made. Like, and it has my favorite female character ever in any fiction is Darth Kreia. Darth Kreia is one of the most well-written, beautiful, deep, dark, sad, tragic female characters I've read about in any fiction or ever seen on screen. Darth Kreia is probably, in my opinion, the best female character in any fiction. Just hands down. And Knights of the Old Republic 2 is a phenomenal game, even though it's not finished. And if you're a PC gamer, you can play all of the unfinished content with all of the cut stuff added back in and finished with some patches. So that's how I play it.
Crisby13 is recommending a game called The Saboteur. I've never played that. Well, man, like, there's just so many good games. I'm just going to play all games. I'm not paying.
I mean, there are thousands of fantastic old games. I'm going to talk about some of my favorite console games, then we'll move to PC games.
Go for it.
One of the games that I still love was a launch title for the original Xbox. It's called Brute Force. Anybody ever heard of that? That's a blast from the past. That's like 23 years old now. Brute Force is where you play a team of 4 cybernetic super soldier specialists. One of them's not really cybernetic. He's like a magic lizard man that has stealth powers. He's a hunter, and his people worship the spirit of Vingar. And he has fast-moving melee powers and uses a powerful shotgun. And you've got this caramel-skinned sniper lady, and you've got this cute little British lady called the Hawk, who's like a stealth melee expert. And my favorite character is Tex, a giant white American, and his special power is he's just a big brute that dual wields heavy weapons. And he's badass, and he gets to his special power is he can lay mines, he can disarm mines, he can carry the biggest heavy weapons, and he's just a cocksure American badass, and that's a really fun game. It's just a third-person shooter. It's one of the earliest ones for console, and it's just awesome. And I still replay it from time to time. Another early Xbox game that's a little more artsy and a little, not really paused, but like not as like hardcore badass or right-wing or anything. It's just a pretty game that's well-made and well-realized called Sudeki. Sudeki is a very interesting third-person action-adventure RPG, and it's so bizarre I don't want to get into it because it'll take a long time to explain, but Sudeki is a very cute, interesting old console game that I really love. Other console games I will recommend, Metroid games. Probably my favorite console franchise ever made is Metroid. And those of you that have followed me for years know that because I bring it up sometimes. Metroid Prime Echoes, and the third one, Corruption for Wii. Probably my most played console games ever of all time. I've played through those bunches of times on emulator. There's even a Dolphin emulator specifically jiggered to work best for the Metroid Prime games, and I've played them a crap load. I know them up, down, front, and center. I also love Super Metroid, one of the best console games ever made for Super Nintendo. It's phenomenal, and it's technically emulator only, but in my opinion, one of the best Metroidvania side-scrolling games ever made is a community project called AMR2 that stands for Another Metroid 2 Remake. AM2R, forgive me. Another Metroid 2 Remake, and it is just beautiful. Metroid 2 is the good one for Game Boy, and it's gotten a few versions and a few updates and stuff, but AM2R is definitely the best fan-made game I've ever played, and it is fantastic. Like it's even better than Super Metroid in my opinion. It's just phenomenal for a 2D Metroidvania. But I'm not going to go off about Metroid or I'll be here all night. So those are just the things that come to mind about enjoyable, awesome old console games. So you guys want to talk about...
And of course, no list would be complete without the games that Bethesda did when they were still good. Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 4.
Oh, that's right. my favorite Elder Scrolls game is Metro. Listen to me, Morrowind. And I forgot that that's technically a console game because I think it came out
Yep.
first on Xbox before it
Yep.
came out on PC. I think
And
so.
the Fallout 4 and Skyrim, of course, can be modded to all hell and back. It's
Right.
not as easy to mod on consoles, but you can still do a lot of
The
modding.
best out of
So,
the box
you know,
Fallout is obviously Fallout New Vegas, and if you like classic isometric old school CRPG, Planescape Torment, Fallout 1 and 2, hands down best PC games ever. Like if you like any kind of D&D or fantasy at all, and you like CRPGs like 90s isometrics, text story driven visual combat, turn-based combat games, you need to play Planescape Torment. It's one of the best games ever made, ever, for any console, for any PC. Planescape Torment's phenomenal. I can't say
I
enough good about
I
it.
started playing it, but I couldn't get into it. If you
Really?
want, yeah, if you want like alternatives to things like Diablo, check out Path of Exile, which is free to play and is in my opinion vastly superior to
It
the
is,
new
but in my
Diablo.
opinion, even more superior. I know I cut you off. I'm sorry,
No,
but
it's fine.
even more superior than Path of Exile is Grim Dawn, and I'll talk about that next. Go ahead.
Okay, no, I don't have anything to add. Go on.
Grim Dawn was made by Crate, the people who got their fame who made Titan Quest. Titan Quest is an ARPG. It was pretty big, but they went on to make, in my opinion, the magnum opus of action RPGs, which is Grim Dawn. It is a Victorian era post-apoc magic survival game where there are cosmic forces that are literally trying to tear the world and the spirits of people apart, and a horrible cataclysm happened. So you've got like demon bound relics that can shoot fire, you've got magicians and you've got guns and flamethrowers and body armor. That it's amazing. Grim Dawn, in my opinion, has the best story and the best replay value of any ARPG I've ever played. My husband loves ARPGs. He got me into them years and years ago, and I think the Grim Dawn's great. Path of Exile's not bad. I'm not saying it's a bad game. Path of Exile's fine, and if you enjoy playing it, more power to you. Path of Exile's
Although it's
cool.
just, because sometimes, actually quite a lot of the time, I just want to play video games to let my brain cool off. So I
Yeah,
want to exist in that sort of perfect state between not having to do too much and having something to do, right? So when I'm in that sort of like a state and I just want to relax, I don't want a game that's too hard. I want a game that's sort of like mostly repetitive with like some variation, just so I can let my brain cool off, especially if I've been like reading a whole bunch of like Marxist theory, or watching the destruction of the UK, and then I just I need to like stop my brain from eating itself, as it were.
I
We
could
have
sit here and talk about good games all night. How much longer do you want to go before we start doing chat engagement?
Well, it's a quarter to. Let's do some chat
Okay,
engagement.
all right,
Hang on, we've got a couple of other recommendations. Crispy
sure.
13 is up in the Rumble chat. So STUF about shut the fuck up about Econ. A Diablo-like game that many forget about is Sacred Gold. I've never played that. Crispy 13 Brothers in Arms. I've heard of that as well, and also Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. Did they make a game out of that? And what else have we got? Any other recommendations? Man, I'm so disappointed with Bethesda. Like, Starfield was so terrible. They could have honestly just contacted all the modders from Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 4, and Skyrim, and just re-released those games with just larger texture packs. Like, just changed literally nothing, just made
Yeah,
more high poly objects. I mean, they're already made. Like, all the modders have already made it. They could have, and just continued to mint money, right? Skyrim for me is like Dark Side of the Moon, right? The album, right? I must have bought that album like 5 times in 5 different formats, right? Skyrim the same. I think I must have bought Skyrim like at least 4 different times. Like, they could just continue to print money, but no, money's not good enough. We have to do a communism. just shove it up your ass. I'm so over it. So do we have questions from the gallery of the
I've been
Gulag
looking,
Cafe?
and I haven't really seen any questions. A big part of the new Gulag Cafe, for those that missed it, I've had a hot, miserable week and a lot of problems. Chris has a vacation coming up, and his brain is just sick of having to read communist shit and communist theory. So we wanted a week off from Empire of Lies, and we've been talking about for a while having a filler stream and calling it something. And I came up with Gulag Cafe. So it's going to be a mix of me and him just shooting the breeze and talking about a topic that we like and interacting with the chat. So this is kind of like a Q&A, AMA type of stream. And I told you earlier in the stream when it started, if there's anything you want to ask me or Chris, put it in the chat. It doesn't have to be a paid chat. We would appreciate that if it would be a paid chat, of course, but it doesn't have to be. So for the next 10 or 15 minutes here, we're just going to look at the chat and see what you guys have to say and respond to you. So I would be glad to do another stream where we talk about video games that don't suck. Maybe we could do that, dedicate its own stream to it, or do it at the next Gulag Cafe. Remember before we were all in the Gulag, how we used to play video games? Let's talk about some good ones.
Dimitri, remember before Gulag, we would just sit on couch and play video games, and now instead we have to find rats and make them fight each other, and winner gets a shot of potato vodka. Oh, those were the days. Fucking hell. Oh, we have a super chat. You want
which one? Where? Okay, over on from Battle Cat on Rumble.
Yep.
Because we have a few paid chats already. All right, we'll do Battle Cat. We'll do Battle Cat on Rumble first. Battle Cat for $10 over on Rumble. Let's see if I can pull it up with the chat menu. I don't know if it'll do paid chats or not. Let's see. Does it do Rumble chats? It doesn't show Rumbles in the StreamYard interface. I can't pull it up.
Okay.
Anyway, no, I was just going to try to put it on screen. Is what I meant.
Oh, right.
Battle Cat for $10 says, it is ever conceivable that they could return to based games to try to keep young white men housebound, isolated, and atomized in order to prevent a resurgent IRL brotherhood. Oh, is it? That was a question mark. Is it ever conceivable that they would do that? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that the incompetence and the rapacious speed with which they are trying to white erase and destroy us, I don't think that long-term slow containment is on the table. I think that push is coming to shove, and the anti-white oligarchs and the global communist crowd and all these idiots, they are pedal to the metal, and things are breaking down because they don't want things to go slowly anymore. They want their 2030. They want their white erasure. They want the white race to be broken and only a melting pot of diversity. And they're not willing to wait anymore. And so it's gotten to the point to where I don't think we're going to see that. What do you think, Chris? Do you think differently?
I don't think they will for a slightly different reason. I mean, yes, exactly what you're saying, but also at this point, as I was saying, they believe that the way to reform the human soul is by making sure that no one ever has access to bad thoughts, right?
Yeah.
So if they brought out based games, I mean, let's just imagine, right? I could see it coming from a foreign studio or from like an indie studio, but from a company like Ubisoft, like just no way, right? All the ESG people would be on top of them. They'd be like, oh, have you considered the real world harm this game is doing? This is why the next GTA is going to suck us, by the way, right? It doesn't matter how much money Rockstar has spent on it. It is going to suck us. It cannot possibly be, GTA 3 or, or Vice City, right? So, like, let me just give you one example. Okay, so one of the great things about Watch Dogs 1 is you're in Chicago, and there's a whole bunch of missions you do on the south side where you've got to attack like a tower block that's full of diversity, right? And what really shocked me replaying this is that when you're like fighting these people, they actually respond realistically. They're like, I see you, nigga. Fucking, come at me, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just like they actually like because they're hood rats, right? Like it's
Right.
actually a really, really, really good story.
And that wouldn't fly today. They wouldn't make that today.
They're headed by this guy who like come back from like Iraq, and he's like assembled this whole gang among them, and he's really smart, but the people below him are like really stupid, and there's like it's really, really good. GTA, same kind of thing. They can't possibly portray blacks in a realistic manner anymore, right? Or diversity, indeed, in any kind of realistic manner. They can't portray whites in a realistic manner because, if you
because anytime they have a drag queen or a blatant homosexual or a transvestite or transgender or whatever, it never shows the realistic mess of crime and evil and riddled with problems and diseases these people are. It only has to be positive. It can never be negative. It's just
Yeah.
it's bullshit.
Well, unless you're white, in which case it can't be positive, right?
Right.
These rules are like preset, and so it's just become such a massive cliche.
Well, we've got a lot more chats and questions to get to, man. We
Okay,
don't have a lot of
wait,
time.
we've
We got to move
also
on.
got a question. Happy Cursed Plague Doctor was like opinion on handheld consoles. I don't play them. I don't really have an opinion. Do you have an opinion on handhelds?
On handhelds, no.
Okay.
Sorry. No.
Sorry. Right. More super chats?
Yeah, well, yeah, but we've also got a lot of chat questions to get to too, because I promised we would interact with chat too.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and move to paid chats on Entropy. We only have one right now. Oh, Sheaf Palpacringe. I recognize you from Unpopular Opinions, and since AA is going to be killing all of his streams and not doing streams anymore, I invite all the Unpopular Opinions usuals to come to my stream, Discordant Dragons, on Monday night.
Oh yeah, baby.
6 p.m. US, 11 p.m. UK. I know that's late for your UK guys, but it's a good stream. Sheaf Palpacringe for $3 US. Good to see you here in my chat, brother. Sheaf Palpacringe says, still going through my PS2 games. Yes, PS2 has a phenomenal library. PS2 has hundreds of great games and thousands of okay games. So if you don't like playing modern crap, get a PS2 and you can buy hundreds of games for like $1 a piece, and you'll have as much time of playing good PS2 games as you can possibly imagine. PS2 is a great system. I agree with you totally, Chief Palpacringe. All right, let's move over to other paid chats because we got to get out of here. Jason Kuna, good old brother Jason, $6. He says, anti-whiteism means the most to them. Yeah, it does. I think that they hate our people, they hate our culture, and they want to destroy it by destroying us. I think that is their guiding ideology. Thank you, sir. Oh, we have a really good donation from Shelly. Good old Shelly in chat. She just sends much love and a white heart and sends us $40 US. Thank you so much.
Oh God, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks
you,
Shelly.
sister.
I really appreciate that. And I did send you a text message about the camping trip, by the way. So that is in your text inbox. And if you've sent one back, I haven't got to my text yet. I've been busy all day. Thank you, Shelly. I really do appreciate that. And let's make sure we're not leaving anybody out on the other sites. We're going to refresh the paid chats, nothing on Subscribestar. We're going to go to PayPal and check that. And then we are going to move to non-paid chats. And I'm going to respond to a few things quickly, and then we'll get out of here. All right. Anything on the old PayPal? No. All right. So let's move to the non-paid chat. Oh, no, something came in on Entropy just now from Stumbling. Oh, hey, buddy. Stumbling sends in $3 US. Thank you so much. He says, hey, Yiz and Chris, community competitions are fun and engaging and creative. I'd love to see some coding, poetry, and art contests. I'm sure we have talented people in our community. Yeah, I'm sure we do. I wouldn't even know how to begin organizing something like that. If you have ideas or you want to help organize something like that, email me. Send me an email with your ideas and a list of people who are willing to help put it together, and maybe we'll put something like that together. That sounds good.
We had another. Oh, are we done with the paid chats? Because someone in YouTube chat.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff in YouTube chat I need to get to. I need to scroll up before it's gone.
Rick Horton, what is the future of gaming? The slop will get worse. Money will be left on the table. Other people will try and come in to collect that money by making decent games. There will be ferocious resistance. It wouldn't surprise me if the sort of end sort of thing is that the UN and other assorted glow agencies try and lock down things like consoles so that it becomes like the Google Play Store. Oh, we can't publish this game. In fact, it's probably already like that, but it's going to get like much worse. But I don't think it's going to stop the tide because gamers are just so naturally autistic.
Agreed. Someone said that I should start a gaming Discord. Would that I could. What little time I have for gaming usually goes to playing with my husband and my friends. Sometimes I play Warframe with Ginger in the gang. But, I mean, I'm an adult. I do this for a living 3 days a week. I've got a lot of shit going on. Again, running a Discord community and organizing people is kind of what I do on the back end already in a way, just to make my work and all the network of connections and the people that I talk to through the Old Glory Club and the White Wellbeing community and all of that. That's kind of what I do for a living already. So doing something else that's like that would be probably too big of a chore for me. But if you want to start one of those and me advertise for it and get a lot of people in our community involved, if you start it, whether it's Christoph Smuts, it was his idea, or someone else, I would be glad to help facilitate and participate. I'm just not going to be the one that runs it and does all the stuff because that's too much work for me. But it's a good idea. Let's see. There was something else in here that I wanted to respond to. It was something from Kingdom of Inland. Oh, what was it? Kingdom of Inland says a lot of things, and there was something of his that I actually wanted to respond to. I'm trying to find it. We already talked about Fallout New Vegas being good. That was a Kingdom of Inland thing. Kingdom of Inland also likes the Metroid Prime trilogy. He said something. Oh, Sigil. About Sigil. Right. Yes, I do love boomer shooters. I do like Doom, and I have played John Romero's Sigil, both of them, and they're pretty good. They're pretty good. I don't hate them. The WADs I like most are probably BTSX, Back to Saturn X. I really liked, oh God, what was it one I liked a lot? What was that? This is going to be Greek to most people because people don't play Doom WADs, but was it Eve Eternity? Eve Eternity was really good. I like that one a lot. That was really good. There's a whole bunch of awesome Doom WADs that just blow everything else out of the water, and that's one of them. If you like really, really hard slaughter maps, like Sunder is pretty good, but I ain't got time for that. I guess it's ridiculous. Let's move on. Let's see. I don't know Stealth ATF Ardent Party. I've never heard of it. He said it's an OG NES game. Don't know that. Zing Yindli, I don't know how to say Chinese words. I'm sorry, and I'm sorry if that's not Chinese. Talked about how Japanese games are even getting paused because the English translators and localizers are all anti-whites, and they force things like transgenderism and homosexuality into games that are Japanese that are not supposed to be there. And they've been doing this a long time, by the way, like a long time. They've been doing this going back to like the early aughts. They've been doing this a long time, but it's gotten noticeably worse in the last 5 or 6 years. So I agree with you on that. Have you seen any other questions in chat? I don't want to miss any.
No, I'm answering Lomax's question about my top 5 Pink Floyd songs.
Okay. Let's see. Nameless one. Let's see. Nameless had a scratch disc. Okay. Like I said, guys, you have to tag me or it's hard for me to see it. And if you don't tag me or put at EOL or at Yiz and Chris or something, it's difficult for me to know if you're talking to someone else in the chat, and it's hard for my eyes to see it when I skim through hundreds of messages. So, oops, clicked the wrong thing. I'm not seeing anything else. I'm going to start scrolling back down to the bottom. Here's a question for Newsfist from Lomax. Did you see about him asking if you ever had an Amiga flashback or Another World? Did you see that?
Yes, Another World rocked my ass and balls.
Okay, like, you did answer. Okay, good.
That I remember Another World. It was amazing when I first saw it. It was truly insane.
I heard that Amigas were cool, and I watch a lot of like Let's Plays and shit, especially about older game systems, and the Amiga is pretty cool. It has good music. Ardent Party brings up Ulfric Stormcloak from Stormwind or from Skyrim, and asks if he was a glowy. I think he was, and he didn't know it, or at least wasn't fully aware.
Who was glowy? For those of you,
go ahead. What?
No, who was glowy?
Ulfric Stormcloak. If you want to ally with the Stormcloaks. Remember how the guy in the wagon with you at the beginning or whatever, like, you know, you can either ally with basically the nationalists that are the Nords, you know, the Skyrim is for the Nords, the Imperium should GTFO, right? Well, come to find out, Ulfric and his family are being puppeted and financed by the evil High Elves because they're wanting to mess with the Empire and dethrone them for hundreds or thousands of year old grudge with Septimus. So it's
Sussy
like
elves.
So it's, I mean, they really are the small hats of the Elder Scrolls setting. They really are. Like, they're horrible. And so
Ulfric Stormcuck, the true short king.
It's a really good parallel of like white nationalists and neo-Nazis being puppeted by the you-know-who and the American glowies for a lot of the same reasons of, destabilization, color revolution stuff. The people that wrote that part of Skyrim, they knew what was up. They knew a little bit of stuff. So I always like siding with the Stormcloaks because I'm a big old, FNAT or whatever. Like, I'm gonna fight for my people, my land. Get off my land, Yankee. Like, that's just who I am, So I always like siding with the Stormcloaks. But I don't know. Once you actually find out the what's really going on in Skyrim, it does kind of look like the Empire might be a little more of the good guys in that situation because, you know, but anyway, it doesn't really matter. Uh, I go Stormcloaks anyway. So that was my answer to Ardent Party, and we are past time. So I'm going to scroll to the bottom of chat and see if there are any more questions for me or you that I have missed. Let's see. We'll have to do another one of these in a month or so, and do another
Yeah,
Q&A.
this was fun.
This is a
Yeah,
good time.
and I didn't have to write 3,500 words on Marxist brainwriting.
Yeah, I bet that was nice.
You know, like, yeah. So
I see Shelly said something in the chat. I want to make sure I didn't miss what she said because she sent in a big chat. Yeah, we are getting old, aren't we, Bass?
yeah,
I'm in my 40s, and Chris just turned 50.
don't dox me, bro.
Well, you said it on one of your streams, man.
Did I? Oh,
Yeah,
there you go.
I learned it from you, Dad.
Bruh.
I wouldn't have known unless you said it.
Right. Age doxed, bro.
Age docs. Yeah. I mean, I'm old. I'm 45. I don't mind saying how old I am. All right. And I'm not seeing any other pointed questions. So let's go ahead and wrap up and get out of here because I'm dying. I want to go lay in front of a fan and just spritz water on me. So I'm dying. I really do appreciate you guys sharing your dollars with us tonight. It means a lot. And Chris is going to be on a vacation. So are you still doing happenings or are you just taking a full couple weeks off?
I'm not sure. I'll probably take at least like 1 day off after I get on vacation. Like I really need my brain to cool off. I was looking the other day and I've done 165 episodes of happening and I've hardly had a break.
Yeah.
So,
like, I barely had a break and I've been doing this for like 5.5, 6 years. Like I don't get a lot of off time.
But the thing is, right, if something happens, right, if there's like an actual happening event, I will be forced to cover it. You know, I can't stay away from the happenings, bro. So
I know, right?
Hopefully the news will lie quiescent, you know, like a cat in a basket while I'm trying to get some vacation time in it.
And just to let you guys know, we are going to be having more Gulag Cafe. And I'm already talking to Lomax about employing him to make us a good thumbnail and a good background and maybe a graphic or something. We'll see what comes out in the wash. And I might even not call Gulag Cafe the Empire of Lies. I just called it the Empire of Lies Gulag Cafe just to have something in the slot. I might even put Gulag Cafe in its own playlist and not even put it in the Empire of Lies playlist because it's going to be a different format. So that's probably what we'll do going forward. I can rename this stream to just Gulag Cafe 1 or 01 or whatever. But going forward, keep in mind we're going to do these regular question and answer streams. And there will be a topic at the beginning. And I would like to do another one on video games since it's such an important part of most of our lives. And we'll do another one on this. But we don't have anything planned per se. We'll see where it goes. So keep in mind, those of you that are regular listeners and followers, if you have a good question about a topic, or you come across something like an interesting book by a nationalist or a neo-Nazi or a communist or a liberal that applies to things today that you think would be interesting for Chris and I to read and maybe do a topic on, send it to us and let us know, or make a note of it and send it to us in like a paid chat for $1 or $2 just to help support us. Or just wait for a Gulag Cafe and tag our names and tell us about it directly. Also, if you have ideas for like people that brought up today, community events, contests, things like that, that's another good thing to bring up on Q&A when we're having community engagement. So with that being said, we're taking at least 2 weeks off of Empire of Lies.
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Mate, I got to get some vacation in. But you know,
All
when we come back, my brain will be like all refreshed, and you
and
know,
we will
like I
have
said,
a banging episode for you when we
yes,
come back.
yes,
Okay.
Black Lennon.
Yeah, you'll see. So
Yeah,
we're going to go
great.
ahead and get out of here. I hope you all have a lovely weekend. I'll be back Monday night with Discordant Dragons, of course. And man, I hope I don't die of a heat stroke. And I really hope we can fix the air conditioner at my mother's house because it is just miserable over there. But anyway, I love you guys. Thank you for the dollars. And of course, thank you for helping my channel grow like always. And anyway, let's go ahead and get out of here. And we will see you guys when we see you, probably in 2 weeks from now, maybe 3 weeks from now, depending on how things go with Chris's vacation. And that's it. Anything else, Chris, or are we done?
No. Just thanks so much for coming, everyone. I'm glad you enjoy this format. There's so much like cultural stuff we could talk about, given that the Cultural Revolution's now been going on for, well, hardcore version, sort of, 4 years, 10 years. Like, you can just look back into the past and see the way stuff has changed. And really, it's the only way to get a real grasp of how far things have gone is by looking back into the past. There's all kinds of like cool shit we could talk about. So yeah, thanks for
All
coming.
right. Yep. All right, guys. Have a great night, and I'll see you Monday night for Discordant Dragons. Good night, everybody. Take care.
Good night, everyone.